Hello and welcome to the Fuel, Run, Recover podcast, helping everyday runners fuel better, run smarter, and recover faster so you can reach your full performance potential. I'm your host, Stephanie Natchek, dietitian, fitness coach, and a fellow runner too. As the owner of Stephanie Natchek Performance Nutrition, I've spent the last 10 years helping runners learn to fuel their bodies, level up their running performance, and establish healthier relationships with food and exercise. If you're ready to reconnect with your love of running, then let's get started on today's episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fuel, Run, Recover podcast, where I am very excited to be talking to you all about rest days. I guess not just rest days, but rest and recovery time sort of in general is our topic today. And I actually want to give a shout out to Jessica for the episode suggestion. Jessica, one of my lovely Instagram followers who reached out with just a thought that she wanted to hear more about navigating rest days. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So to kind of kick things off, the first thing that I want to address, I want to just put this out there for all of you. Do you need rest? Yes, you do. Every single person, every single runner, everyone needs rest and recovery time. I don't care who you are. I don't care how fast or slow of a runner you are. I don't care how long you've been running. I don't care if you never used to take rest days or if you feel fine or, I don't care. You need rest and recovery time between your hard workouts. You need recovery time from your long runs. Everyone needs rest and recovery time. However, how much rest time you need, how much recovery time you need after a long run or leading up to a long run, after hard workouts, after a race even, etc., depends on a lot of factors. And I think this is where a lot of runners ultimately do end up a little bit confused about the whole concept of rest and recovery, is because what counts as rest, what counts as recovery, how much rest and recovery time do you need, say, compared to the other runners that you might know or see on the internet or elite runners or whatever. Some of it has to do with like who you are as a person, like physiologically what is happening inside your body. But some of it also has to do with personal preference and life, how busy you are outside of running, what other obligations or commitments that you have on your time and energy that might change how much or when or what rest and recovery time really looks like for you. So, how much time you need, how many, say, rest days per week do you need to take, how many recovery days, what counts as rest or recovery is going to depend on whether you're a new runner, if you're an injured runner, maybe you are an older runner, maybe you are a pregnant runner. Maybe you are somebody who is very experienced, has a very high base mileage, and is completely injury-free, feeling really good. This is all going to make a big difference. So when we talk about the idea of rest or recovery, we can kind of think about two different things. We can sort of break it down into, I'll say, two different categories. We have something that we can call passive recovery, which when we think about like rest, like complete rest, no physical activity, no movement, just, it could be just sort of laying on your couch for the day, passive recovery. This is going to be something that we definitely can and should utilize some of the time. Some runners might need to be taking more passive recovery versus active recovery, depending on, again, their experience, injuries, personal preference / time, age, all of these things can make a difference. So we have passive recovery, which is sort of like, complete actual rest days. And then we have this concept of active recovery. And so this is, I think, where people do get quite confused, is what is this whole concept of active recovery? And should we be thinking more about that, utilizing that more rather than taking a complete day off from running? Now, I think that there are very few runners who need to run every single day. You might be someone, though, who enjoys doing a little bit of cross training, and you might want to include more active recovery in your schedule. And as long as it's done at a intensity that is actually considered active recovery, and we're going to talk about what that means, as long as you're doing it at a level that is actually supporting and promoting your recovery, then you don't necessarily need a complete rest day per week. But for the runners that I coach, and you'll see if you're using any of my online programs, that I do always include a scheduled rest day, because I think it's good to have that in there. If you choose to do active recovery instead, that's also fine. But I want people to know that you don't have to be actively training every single day of the week. And that can be just because, our body needs the rest. We need the mental reset or mental break, or because, the vast majority of us, and certainly, all of the people that I coach are not professional runners. And so we all, have lives, jobs, children, other things that take up a lot of our time and energy. And so we just need to make space for those things as well. So we have passive recovery. That's pretty straightforward. I would even put things like your foam rolling, or your, using your massage gun, or things like that also would go into passive recovery category. Others might see that as more like active recovery, because you are doing something. You're not just sitting around on the couch, you're using your foam roller. But, just from, I'll say, an intensity perspective, I would sort of put those things into the passive recovery category. Now, on the other hand, we have active recovery. Now, active recovery is a very light or low intensity exercise that is done after a more strenuous training session with the specific purpose of enhancing your recovery. And so this is going to be, those very light, very easy days that could almost be rest days, but you're doing some amount of very, very light movement. And I want to make this really clear here. The goal is to enhance your recovery. So you are working just hard enough to encourage blood flow into your muscles, get your body moving. And this improved blood flow, if we're talking about just getting in that little bit of movement, just getting in that little bit of circulation, extra circulation to our muscles, this, compared to just sitting around, compared to just sitting on the couch all day, is thought to really speed up recovery, because it improves the removal of waste products from our muscles, the damaged muscle tissue that we acquired during that hard training session. And then we're bringing nutrients to the muscles. So we're giving the muscles sort of this flushing out. We're removing waste products. We're bringing in fresh blood and new nutrients. And so this is thought to speed up recovery, and also just help us to not feel as stiff or as sore. Again, provided we are doing this at a level that is actually considered active recovery. And, one of the biggest mistakes that people make, one of the things that people really do wrong, is their active recovery days are just far too much in terms of intensity. Your active recovery days should not be another workout or a cross training session that is essentially another workout. You should barely even be hitting zone 2 on your active recovery days, never mind like zone 3 or 4 or anything like that. So active recovery really shouldn't be another challenge for your body, another workout for your body, adding more stress, more training load to what you're already doing. If you finish that active recovery session and you are more sore, more tired, more run down, more stiff, that session was far too intense. If then in the following days after those active recovery sessions, you're not able to hit the mileage that you need to, or you're not able to hit target paces during workouts, your legs feel dead, you don't have the same pep in your step during your actual workouts or quality sessions that you need to do, then that's another sign that those active recovery sessions are not actually getting you more recovered. So what we really need to think about here is the active recovery doing its job? Is the active recovery, are these sessions getting me closer to my goal of enhancing recovery? Or are they ultimately taking away from my recovery because I'm up in my head about it? I'm trying to push the envelope. I'm trying to run a little bit faster. I'm trying to race these active recovery days. Or I'm feeling very stressed out or anxious about not doing a hard workout every day, not doing something that I consider to be like hard exercise every day of the week. And where I'm really struggling is being able to back off enough that I am getting that recovery. I feel like my nutrition, I don't know how to navigate my nutrition on these recovery days, which we're definitely going to talk about and cover in this episode. I'm feeling like if I don't get a really solid sweat on, if I don't get a really good workout in, then I just like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable with that idea. And if that's you and you find yourself wanting to do a really tough workout every single day of the week, unless you are like, super sick, super injured, like just, come hell or high water, you're getting in a tough workout every single day, that can actually be holding you back from reaching your running goals. Trying to do too much intensity all the time can really be stopping you from becoming a more fit, faster, stronger runner, but also just overall athlete. We need that rest, we need that recovery time in order to build fitness, in order to get stronger. This is a little known fact when it comes to exercise and training, is that we actually don't build fitness, build strength, build any of these physiological adaptations that we get from training during the actual training session. The magic, the training, all the things are not happening during the actual workout. Instead, we are actually getting those benefits. We are getting those physiological adaptations taking place in the rest and recovery time in between. So if we never give our bodies the chance to recover, we never give ourselves that active recovery or the rest time, we are actually not going to build fitness, or not at least reach our capacity for building fitness long term. So I really want you to like rethink the way that you view rest and active recovery time. If it's something that you really struggle with, really try to see the benefits of it and really shift your thinking around getting those benefits. It can make a huge, huge difference. We want to work smarter, not just harder. And if right now you're working very, very hard, but maybe not seeing the payoff, it might be time to just rejig some things and back off a little bit. So that is what's happening with rest/passive recovery versus active recovery, what the difference is between those two things. And then I just wanted to kind of get into some of the common, I'll say, questions I get from runners about what they can do on a rest or active recovery day. So here we go. On a rest day, can I walk my dog? Yes, absolutely. Your dog doesn't know that it's a rest day. And so, yes, absolutely. Something like taking your dog out for a walk is perfect for active recovery. Can I take it easy at my usual boot camp class? So can I go to my boot camp class that I always go to, but can I just like do a lighter workout than normal? No, you cannot. That is not rest. That is not passive recovery. And that is certainly not active recovery either. I know that you're going a lot easier than your hardest workout days, but even just doing the strength training or doing the intervals or doing the burpees or jumping jacks or whatever it's going to be in that boot camp class immediately puts you out of that active recovery zone. So no, that does not count. Can I go for a bike ride with my kids? Yes, that definitely, probably, I mean, unless your kids are like, Olympians or something, your kids are probably going to be biking, I'll say, slow enough, or not in a straight line enough that it's going to be fairly leisurely. Like you're probably not going to be getting your heart rate up super high. Again, unless we're talking about like going for a bike ride with like teenagers or something like that. Can I do a 2 or 3 hour long ride as active recovery? No. And the reason why not is because the duration of that ride automatically makes it no longer active recovery. It's too long, right? This is the equivalent of doing, say a long run. Yes, the intensity is low, but the duration of that is long enough that it's not going to count as active recovery. Can I run on my active recovery days? This one really depends on your experience and your fitness level. So for example, if you are someone who's a fairly new runner, you're just building your aerobic base for the first time, you are just kind of learning about easy running, conversational running, zone 2 running. And at this point, all running feels kind of hard. Like you're just getting started, you're just building up your mileage and stuff like that. You are not someone who's comfortable or has a lot of experience running on a really regular basis yet. Maybe you're just running 3 or 4 times a week. then probably not. Running is probably going to be too strenuous. Even the easiest running is probably going to be too strenuous for you for it to count as active recovery. But if you are a more experienced, higher volume runner who, you can go out and you can do some miles and barely hit zone 2 while running, then yeah, right? The equivalent for someone else might be that walk, say walking your dog or walking on your own or something like that. So for runner A, who's the newer runner, walking might be that intensity that puts them in that active recovery zone. But for the very experienced runner, they may be able to run and still be in that same intensity level as the person who's walking for active recovery. So, in terms of whether or not you can run, it just depends a little bit on your fitness level. But I want you to avoid being the runner who is getting a little overambitious, wanting to be the person who can run on your recovery days and rushing that process and never actually getting the rest and recovery time that you need. Can you do yard work as active recovery? And again, this one I sort of feel like it depends because there's a big difference between, I'll say sort of leisurely going into your vegetable garden and, pulling some weeds and trimming some flowers and deadheading some things and stuff like that, cutting your herbs and bring them inside. There's a big difference between that and like raking leaves, digging out old trees, mowing your lawn, manually, um, moving patio stones around, stuff like that. So it really depends on what we're talking about when it comes to things like yard work or even housework and how intense and also how different is it from your usual workload. If you're someone who has a desk job and all of a sudden you've got, 8 hours of heavy, hard yard work to do on the weekend, I mean, that's very different from your typical stress in life, the typical things that you do. And so, that might be a situation where it is a little bit too intense and it's not really going to count as rest and recovery. But if we're talking about, again, some leisurely yard work, you're just getting outside, moving around a little bit, your heart rate isn't elevated, you're not sweating buckets while you're out there doing it, then yeah, maybe that can be part of your active recovery plan. The question always comes back to if it makes you more sore and more tired, then it was not active recovery. Again, same goes with something like taking a yoga class. This really depends on the style of yoga and again, how often you do yoga. If we're talking about a very low intensity yoga class where the main focus of that class is restorative, it is about just getting the blood flowing, you're holding poses for a lengthy amount of time. It's really helping you with flexibility, mobility, things of that nature, and you do it fairly regularly such that it's not making you more sore or more tired, then yeah, that definitely can be a great way to do some active recovery. But if on the other hand, this is a flow class or like a power yoga class or a very long yoga class that's very intense, that is again making you more sore, more tired, you don't do it very often, and you're doing a lot of movements that are adding, for the purpose of like building strength versus building just flexibility and mobility, then that may count as a little bit more of like a strength training sort of workout session. It really just depends. So, in terms of all of these different activities and what kind of counts and what doesn't count, there are some, I'll say my personal hard and fast kind of yes or no's, but there are some things that it really does depend on you as a person, which is why I think it makes it a little bit of a gray area. All right. So then what about nutrition for rest days, right? How do we manage our nutrition? Because a lot of runners are used to, especially if you're someone who does track calories, a lot of people are used to kind of needing that workout in order to feel like you can eat a normal amount of food, the amount of food that like a normal person would want to consume. And if you don't get a workout in, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the calories that I have for today and it's not looking good. So, for nutrition for rest days, what I want you to remember is that you are still needing to fuel your body on those rest days. You still need nutrition, you still need calories, you still need carbs, you still need protein, you still need all the things, even on your active recovery or rest days. And, when you are in a overall higher volume training cycle, where the purpose of these active recovery days is to help you recover faster and refuel for the next hard workouts that are to come, in the next day or the next days. We may need to also be thinking about increasing the amount of food we take in, increasing our fueling to get ready for those upcoming workouts. So, generally speaking, on a rest day, we would use what we call our easy training day plate. This easy training day plate is half vegetables, a quarter protein, and 1/4 starch. This is meant to give you, the balance of nutrients you need, really emphasize those antioxidant rich, high fiber fruits and vegetables. Lots of different colors on the plate is always nice to see. And it's making sure that you're not, of course, skipping meals, not eating, all of those things on a rest day. But if today is your rest day and tomorrow is your long run, we don't want to just be eating that easy training day plate for that rest day. Because if we're doing that long run tomorrow morning, we don't have enough gas in the tank to have a really solid long run that upcoming workout. So we might then, and this is what I encourage my runners to do, is to actually use the hard training day plate for the dinner before your long run. So the night before your long run, you're having that hard training day plate so that you are well fueled going into that workout. And if you have, say, a double workout day and then a recovery day and then another double workout day or a hard workout day or a long run or something like that, then in between on that active recovery day, you might need, say, the moderate training day plate, or you might even need the hard training day plate if you had a double workout day the day before. So yes, on that particular day, you maybe aren't doing a high volume of training, but we have to think overall about what's happening throughout the week and be really flexible with our thinking and our relationship around food, around how much fuel we need for fueling that recovery and also getting ourselves ready and prepared for the work that's to come. And this is really hard for some runners. Some runners want to do the workout, burn the calories first, and then eat them back afterwards, right? Know how many miles you ran, know how many calories you burned, know how much you need to refuel, and then eat your post run meal and really, get in all those calories afterwards. But if we just shift our thinking a little bit towards being more well fueled before the workout, we then allow ourselves really open up this opportunity to have better quality sessions, whether that's better endurance, not hitting the wall on our long runs, better quality workouts and speed sessions, able to hold a tempo pace for a longer period of time, overall better results. Then, of course, we still need a recovery meal. So, that's important as well. We're not having a pre workout meal at the expense of a post workout meal. We need both. But what it allows is for us to then get in those better quality sessions. We're also enhancing our recovery with our post workout meal. And then, just in general, we can be getting better results from our training without actually doing more hard work, right? We're not adding in workouts, we're not adding in mileage, but just by thinking about our nutrition on those active recovery days and maybe making some tweaks to our nutrition, we actually can be better fueled overall as far as the entire week goes. If you are extremely hungry on your rest day, so if you're the runner who every time you take a rest day, you just could eat all day long and you're starving all the time, this actually might be a sign that you need to increase your energy intake across that entire week. So this is a situation where you might find that as soon as you take a day off, you just you cannot seem to get on top of your appetite. And this is because intense exercise, whether it's volume or, of course, intensity, can actually suppress our appetite. So we can get fewer appetite signals from intense training. So then when we rest, our hunger signals can kind of come roaring back to a degree, and we can find ourselves hungrier than usual. So it's important to keep in mind that even when we're resting, our body is very busy, right? As I said, recovery and all these physiological adaptations do not take place during the workout. They are taking place after the workout, in between the workout, when we are doing the rest and the active recovery, when we're actually taking that break, when we're sleeping, especially. So we still need to eat and fuel our bodies even on rest days, and maybe even eat and fuel more than you ever even thought. So definitely no skipping meals just because you're not exercising. Definitely no dieting or skipping carbs or trying to go on a low calorie eating plan during those days. We want to make sure that our nutrition for rest days has just as much intention and purpose as it does for the other days of the week. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode all about rest days, what counts, what doesn't, how to know how much rest you need, what you can do to get in that active recovery, how to fuel for your active recovery or rest days, and of course, how to know if maybe you are actually doing too much and you're not getting the rest that you really need. So I want to say thanks again to Jessica for the suggestion for this episode. And that is it for me for today. I cannot wait to see you here back next week for another all new episode of the Fuel, Run, Recover podcast. And of course, if you want to learn more about any of the resources that I mentioned in today's episode, whether that is the training plans that I have available or those athletes plates that I mentioned, those are resources that I use with my clients. And the training plans are available either through me as a one-on-one running coach, or of course, you can find all of those and so much more in my online signature program, the Fuel, Train, Recover Club. You can get all the details about those by clicking on the links in the show notes. And if you're on the market for a running coach, you're looking for someone to help you get race ready, I would love to help you out. So let's chat. All right, that's it for this week. We will see you here back next week for another all new episode. Bye for now. The information on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used or relied upon for the diagnosis or treatment of any health condition. This information does not create a client-practitioner relationship and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice.